Good afternoon, Gophers, and welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod. Today we're coming at you with a live reaction of the 48-0 victory over Rhode Island. Curdy, you were there at the game, man. Tell us, how was it? How was the atmosphere?
Yeah. Stadium was overall about half full, but the student section brought it. They were rocking, ready to go. Beautiful day out there. Kind of chilly to be honest if you're in the shade, which is why I went with the long sleeve out there today. But uniforms looked great. Team played pretty well overall. Just a fun time at the bank, and yeah, dominating victory. Victory.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. I guess what we can do is let's just break this down, I guess. To start, let's just start from the get go. The start of the game, first quarter. I felt that it was pretty slow. I sent in a message to probably a little prematurely, stating Brosmer didn't really look comfortable. Um, he just seemed kind of out of the element, kind of like last week. Against a North Carolina team that's pretty good. Little jittery in the pocket at times. When he senses pressure, I feel like I don't want to say panics, but he just doesn't seem in his element. And I think as a result, that just he'd either tuck and run it or just take the sack or maybe throw a ball that's not so good. We did get that field goal in the first quarter, and well, we did score seven or yeah, just a field goal right in the first quarter.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a
Different
slow
story the
start.
rest of the game, but yeah, what did you guys think about that first quarter?
The offensive line, I thought, was like, if you're going to complain about anything this game, I think you can nitpick the offensive line. We couldn't run the ball against these guys. I mean, we never really got the run game going. We kind of threw to open it up a little bit, but the offensive line definitely struggled. It was tough to describe even. Like they just didn't come out hot. I don't know. They just took them while to get going. Like, we got the holding call on nursery. We had a false start early on as well, and they just weren't creating a lot of push. Now, Rhode Island was definitely bringing an extra guy in the box late to try and tip it their way as far as numbers in the box for the run game. But it's Rhode Island, and we just weren't getting a lot of push. And then also too, though, not to put it all on the offensive line, but I felt like Marcus Major maybe didn't break as many tackles as we saw maybe even last week against North Carolina. A lot of arm tackles brought guys down today. But yeah, if there's one thing to kind of be worried about or complain about from this game, it is just the offensive line's lack of ability and moving guys up front. So that's something that you obviously got to work on. But other than that, yeah, maybe Brosmer started out a little slow. We had some big drops out there, but I thought he was everything you could ask for and better. He put everything right on the money, it seemed like today.
Yeah, you'd think a team like Rhode Island, if there's anywhere you're going to dominate, it's at the line of scrimmage. So yeah, like the offensive line struggles, at least early, was definitely concerning. If there's any, if there's any comeback to that, is it because we shuffled up with the offensive line a little bit? We moved Carroll back to right tackle instead of guard. I don't know how much of that really matters. I mean, he's been playing right tackle the last 2 years, so it really shouldn't matter. And especially against his
Right.
opponent, you'd expect him to be, you know, dominating and allowing that run game to operate. But yeah, I mean, it was a slow start. Overall, though, it was nice to see Dragan Kesic at least get some confidence back, hit a long field goal. I think they said it was his career long at 53 yards in the first quarter
Okay.
there. So
Yeah, that
I
was
guess
nice
that
to
was,
see him bounce back.
yeah, especially at the last game. And right away, too, right? I mean, the first quarter of the next game, you have a 53-yard field goal to hit. But I
Yeah.
think that's what everyone's talked about Dragan is like he's always on to the next one, whether he makes it or misses. So that's, I guess, another positive to take away, that if that's a guy we're going to need later in the year, I'd like to have him hitting those long field goals every opportunity he gets.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
see that though. Sorry, I was just gonna add. Was Carroll at right tackle the whole time he played today?
That's what they said in the. I was listening to it on the radio and it had the game cast on, and they
Okay.
said on the first drive that he was at right tackle, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, in the stadium, I didn't even really pick that up, but they seem to just. I mean, they were bringing in so many different guys all game. I mean, a lot of two tight end sets, and then both tight ends were coming off the
Yeah.
field. They were mixing up a lot of personnel. Sorry, Shody, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add, yeah, to transition a little bit. The second quarter was really when things started to take off, especially for Brosmer. He looked great. That kind of the first drive, starting in the end of this first quarter into the second, was fantastic. They had 13 plays for 83 yards in just 6.5 minutes, and they've scored that touchdown. And then from there, things just took off. Um, Kurt, you mentioned something about rolling in the tight ends. How about the tight end plays that we got in there? I mean, we were utilizing the tight end position in a way that I don't think we've done for a while. There's a lot of throws that Brosmer made to the tight end position, which was great. Um, I thought that the ball was spread out pretty well too. Obviously, we know what Daniel Jackson can do. He's the wide receiver number one. But I was impressed with Driver. He scores touchdown. Elijah Spencer, he seems like when he gets the ball, he can do a lot of things with it. The yards after catch, which is pretty awesome. And then Lemeke Brockington, another guy who I was like, where has he been? And he scores a nice touchdown there too. So I love that the love was spread out. Obviously, Darius Taylor coming back was awesome. He didn't run the ball as much as I thought he would, which is a good thing
That's
because
okay.
we need
Yeah.
him going into the rest of the season. But overall, I'm impressed, fellas. I think that PJ did a lot of. I think that he spread the ball great. I mean, I thought that we weren't so reliant on the run, which in years past we typically see against these teams. Um, these group of five teams,
Right.
whatever, or FCS teams. Um, but here, this kind of was reminiscent of Nebraska that first game last year. Maybe not as crazy, but definitely threw the
Right.
ball a lot more, and I was very happy with that.
Do you think that PJ was more willing to throw it out because of the difficulties we had running, or do you think it was the game plan to come in and get the ball spread around? I mean, you look at Elijah Spencer, 4 catches; Darius Taylor, 4 catches; Daniel Jackson, 4 catches; Lemeke Brockington, 2 catches; Marcus Major, 4 catches; Christian Driver, 2 catches; Jameson Greer's 2 catches, and then a lot of guys had another catch as well. But
Yeah,
it was just spread out.
yeah. I think it's probably the former. I think that the run game wasn't doing it, so he went to the air. Just knowing PJ, he's going to do what's working, which is fine. But to be honest, I'm kind of glad that that's how it worked out because now it's in his head like, okay, we can throw the ball. We can do this. I don't know if in doing so, I don't know if we have a definite number two yet in terms of receiver because there were some drops, like you said, Curdy. And they're all talented from Spencer to Driver to Lemecki.
Yeah.
I don't know who that number two guy is, but regardless, they're all great, and I like that. But yeah, to answer your question directly, I think it's because the run game wasn't going. It's probably why we threw the ball.
Yeah, 12 different pass catchers is great to see. And we kind of talked about it on the last show that, we just wanted to kind of see what the offense could do. Just let him open it up a little bit, get Brosmer in a rhythm, and just see how he looks once he is in a rhythm. It did take till the second quarter for that to happen. But I mean, you look at his final stats, he only had 6 incompletions, and there was a couple drops in there too. So
At
once they
least
got
3.
rolling, once they got rolling, he was looking a lot more, or at least seemed like a lot more comfortable. That's what they made it sound like on the radio. Again, this was streaming on Peacock, so it's not able to actually see it.
Here's a hint on that Peacock, though. If you just YouTube any game on Peacock, there's usually a stream that's up for a good chunk at a time, and then you just keep rolling that way. Not encouraging it. You can subscribe to Peacock. I'm a subscriber to Peacock, so I don't need to do that. But
Yeah,
if you're out there in a pinch, there's alternative methods out there. That's all I'll say. Yes, if we're going to stay on Brosmer for a second, and this could change as the competition gets tougher. Again, it was Rhode Island. We were 28-point favorites, so I'm not going to, think we solved all of our issues or anything. But it's been a long time since I've been like, it just looks really comfortable for him to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Go back to Jerry Kill days. Everything was like towards the sideline and away from everybody, like super risk conservative, and then even with Tanner Morgan, it was like slant or nothing, and where there's a lot of ins, a lot of hitches, like he just finds guys over the middle of the field all the time. So I'm thinking that that's going to continue as it goes on, which is nice to see. It's a very rhythmic passing game for him, and he looks really comfortable in that. So I hope we keep that going for him. And you mentioned Elijah Spencer making moves after the catch. Spencer, he did, and he was very close to breaking those for a lot bigger plays. It's like he put his hand down, stumbled forward for a few extra yards, but he was one, shoelace tackle away from really going far on those receptions. So that was nice to see. The Lemecki touchdown, I feel like that's how he should be used more. He's kind of his top end speed seems pretty good out there. Like it seems to be what he does maybe better than the other guy. So I'd like to see him be a more one move and up the field guy or one move and get him the ball guy. It just seems to be a strength of his. So I'd like to target him more down the field if possible. He had that 29-yard touchdown reception, which was nice. He beat the safety, couldn't get over there in time to cover him, which always nice to see being able to take advantage of that. But yeah, I thought the receivers overall had a better game. Again, they each had a drop that they probably want back. But yeah, for me, the story of the game is Brosmer, and we haven't even really touched on the defense yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, I don't know if there's really much else to say about the offense. I guess one critique other than the first quarter is, you're up 17 at the end of at the first half. We do kind of decide to try and get 7, go up 24-0 at half just to see what the 2-minute offense looks like to try and map out how that's going to look for the rest of the season. Little disappointing. I do like how we attempted to throw the ball. Unfortunately, Brosmer gets kind of attacked, and I don't blame that on him. Kind of the line kind of let guys through, but he does lose some yardage, and as a result, we're kicking for a 55-yarder plus and doesn't go through the upright. So we end up with 0. That was kind of hard to watch, but other than that, I thought it was a tremendous effort by the offense, and I can't wait to see this keep on going. I hope next week is the same going into Iowa the week after that, but we'll see. But yeah, let's talk about. Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
Well, I was just gonna say that drive is like what PJ. You guys joked about it in the group message I saw, but that's what PJ is gonna point to for just running the ball now and like being very conservative in those situations.
That's his evidence.
That was the sack, but again, that was another one where it's like a guy just came free right up the gut. I mean, it wasn't even like a guy really got beat. It looked like we just missed. Like there was just some miscommunication coming right up the gut untouched on him. So tough to blame Brosmer there, but I mean PJ's probably telling him to just fall down right where he is and still kick a little bit closer of a field goal. Not going to hold it against Dragon for missing a 54-yarder there at the end of the half, but it is what it is. We came out throwing still, which was nice to see the second half. I thought they might be like, okay, so try and get back and just run the ball. And, talk about the struggles early again really quick. I was a little worried because it was like they were still doing the same thing. It's like, okay, Lemecki's out there. We're running the ball. Okay, Lemecki came off. Elijah Spencer comes in. Okay, now it's a pass. They were really telegraphing that again. So it was nice to see them really just like throughout the whole, like Christian Driver out there, they ran it, then they would throw. They really mixed that up and didn't get as predictable. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the defense a little bit. I thought defense was tremendous. anytime you hold an opponent to 0 points, that's a great effort. Yes, it's against a Rhode Island team, but nevertheless, it's still pretty impressive. I thought what was probably the best thing that we saw. Um, Boy, it's kind of hard. I did like what was going on up front. We saw the Devon Eastern strip sack. That was pretty awesome. But also the amount of interceptions that we had, that was pretty cool too. Um, I don't really know what to point to as the best unit out there in terms of up front linebackers or the defensive backs. I thought it was a collective effort. Um, and yeah, I don't really know what else to critique with them. What do you think, Bills?
Yeah, I mean, they came out and made plays and they did everything they needed to do. Kind of like, really both sides of the ball. There was nothing that either side could do that was going to completely change or lift your outlook for the season, but it could you know cause more concerns. So I think they did everything they needed to do, and then coming out and just making big plays like they did, the pick six, a couple interceptions, and the fumble, um, and no big plays given up. Their starting quarterback, who was pretty mobile, we didn't let him run around on us. So just there was no lack of focus against a lesser opponent, and I think that's huge, especially with some younger guys coming in. So yeah, I mean, they did their job, they did everything they needed to do, and it's always more fun when the defense can score too. It's more exciting and
Yeah,
helps the
if we're
offense.
listing if we're listing individuals that stood out, I mean, Devin Eastern had a huge game today. I'm sure he was wanting to get after it after maybe not his best game against North Carolina, but he was a beast out there. They had no answer for him, creating that fumble on the quarterback, tackling a half for loss as well. And you look at Rhode Island's rushing. I mean, they weren't known to be a great rushing team coming into it, but 13 attempts for a 1.4 yard average for 18 yards total. I mean, they couldn't do anything. They hit a couple of those RPO slants, but I mean, you'll live with that. And really, I mean, a couple of those were lucky too. Like there's in that third quarter, I felt like our defense just had them completely figured out. Like they were just sitting on those throws. It was like near pick. And then it's like once the backups got in or shuffled in, more of those interceptions started happening. Um, I know what the fans are going to be most excited about. I was excited. Everyone, it seemed like the stadium lit up when Coy got his first pick. That was great to see off a tip ball. Um, he looks like his athleticism is evident out there. You can see it how he plays already for a true freshman to be out there. Again, it's Rhode Island, so we're not freaking out over here saying he's going to be first team All American or anything, but just really strong player. And then the coverage. I mean, I know it's Rhode Island, but the coverage for this defense continues to be there 2 games in. And Max, you said it, like no big plays given up, and that was a big issue that this defense had repeatedly last year. So just very, very much playing assignment football, and it's working out so far. So Devin Eastern, I'd say, had the best game individually. Cody Lindenberg stood out as well, but the coverage for me in the secondary and the play of the front with Devin Eastern in particular, that's what stood out for me. And I feel bad that we can't go on and on about them, but we could. It's just they dominated. There was really
Yeah,
nothing Rhode Island really ever had out there.
right. And that's just it's good football. You can't really complain about, some of the things that we saw this game. They really cleaned it up too, I thought, from last week. There were a couple missed tackles, I thought, but really nothing that was alarming. Second game in, only way is up from here, I think, and I just really like how much. I think that in all phases, just how much they've improved just from last week, kind of getting that loss, kind of the bad taste in your mouth, kind of out of there, getting a dominant win, savor this one until the next one. Um, I guess
I
another,
think we. I was going to say, I
yeah,
think we still should got to talk about something with special teams.
I was
Just
just gonna go there.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
Quentin Redding did get injured. We had been pushing to see a new guy out there. Obviously, not the way we wanted to see it, but It happened. He didn't return. His helmet was off pretty quickly on the sideline, so hopefully he's okay and back soon. But that led to Coy Perrick getting back there once towards the end of the game. Daniel Jackson looks to be the immediate fill in for Reading on punt return. And then I thought the best return of the game was actually Lemecki on kick return. He looked quick. You could see a change in athleticism, I felt like, out there. So curious to see if that sticks, but I kind of just took the main points. But anything else to add on special teams, guys?
Yeah, I mean the fact that they put Coy Parrish back there already is a pretty good sign that they definitely trust him. I know it's early in the season, and like we talked about, it is just Rhode Island, but I mean they let him have a shot, and he had a good return. It sounded like I think it's 28 yards
Oh
on the
yeah,
punt. So
yeah,
I think
Um,
everyone wants to see more, just someone else, just to try. And like you
yeah.
said, it's not the way you want to see it happen. You feel bad for Reading, but it's an opportunity for other guys to step up, or even some younger guys too. I mean, special teams is a way you can get on the field. So
Yeah. Well, and Coy's playing on so many special teams already with the starters. And I want to make this point about Coy too. Like they obviously feel pretty good about him, and I don't think you're going to see him going away anytime soon. Like he's not going to redshirt this year. He was out there on third and longs as like a third safety. They were having, I think it was Coy and Coleman out there, and then Kerry Brown would sometimes slide in underneath. So they had like three safeties out there at a time and like a third and long look. So I'm guessing that package is there to stay. Darius Green was off the injury report. I did not see him out on the field. Again, it's harder because there's no jumbotron constantly showing the names there, so I could have missed it, but I didn't notice him out there on the field. Did you guys pick that up at all? I didn't see him out there today.
he's not on the stat sheet at all.
right.
Okay, yeah. I saw a lot of Kerry Brown, and he looked much improved. He had a couple missed tackles last games, but he was out there a lot. And then Gooseby and Coleman seemed to be rotating in. And then, like I said, it was more of Coy coming in as well on third and long situations. So, yeah, it's nice to be deep there. Yeah, I mean Wally was out there too, and Robinson looked good. Um, Yeah, I mean the coverage was great. I'm impressed with how much better they look already. Again, competition's been not the greatest today, but still, they look like they're making the right strides from last year.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess to talk about special teams, I'm glad how Kesich just kind of redeemed himself in a sense. He misses one at halftime, but that's kind of just like, let's see what you can do. I don't blame him for missing that one.
Yeah,
That's give it your best shot. And he had the distance, he just didn't have get it down the upright. So um, I thought he did well. And then punting, only one punt in the first quarter. So that's great. Like you said,
only punt
Kerr
of the
kind of
game, I
getting
think.
right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
D-Jack, receiving punts, on punt return. That's great. Maybe get Coy out there. Like you said, Kurt, he's not going to redshirt. Get him back there. Get him involved somehow. Get him that experience. Um, because yeah, he's just a tremendous athlete, and I think experience goes a long way. By the time he's a sophomore, he'll probably be playing and have a significant role on the team. Might as well get your feet wet and see what you can do, and then be a leader out there next year. But regardless, all phases, I gotta say, I'm very impressed. Step up from last week, and yeah, I'm pleased. It's not
just
against a Big Ten opponent, but it's still a great team effort.
just think if this game would have been the first game, like to open the season, we would have been all high on our horses. We would have been like the Nebraska and Iowa fans that were celebrating like huge wins over FCS teams, low level teams. But it
Yeah.
is what it is. Not a whole lot we could have proven today, but an overall good victory. I do want to get to this. It's completely separate of Gopher football. It's back to the Sky U Pod parlay. Shorty, You
Yeah,
went with the under last night in the Northwestern Duke game, and
yeah.
man, oh man, that was I stayed up till 11 something at night, almost midnight, finishing that game out. You had the right idea. That was just an absolute backbreaker. I was pulling for it. One of our listeners suggested maybe my dog chooses next week in place of you to see if that has more success, but uh, we're not
You
gonna we're
probably
not gonna
have
give
as
up
good as
that early.
odds as I do.
Well, it's 50-50, so
Yeah, right. Here's the thing. Obviously, that pick's risky. I mean, 36 and a half points. I mean, you think about it, that's ridiculous to go with the under in college football these days. Um, but up until the end of the game, it was looking good. Just didn't turn out the way we wanted it to.
Dave Valensky, this is what I expected from the Gophers when they play a team like this. No worries. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's how it should have gone. We dominated like we should have. I would point out to Penn State against Bowling Green today. That was a game where they were thinking they were probably going to dominate, and that one was a lot tighter than they were expected. So yeah, I'm not trying to like overpraise PJ or anything here, but yeah, no, they did exactly what they should have today. They took care of business.
Yeah,
They showed up in suits. They were ready for business.
and they
They
took
got it
care of
done.
it. But that's exactly the thing, especially after a loss last week. I think what was good about this win was cleaning up all the things that kind of went wrong last game and capitalizing on it. Yeah, I'm just happy, and not only that, you could stick with your guns, and just run the ball all day. I was just really happy with what they did through the air mostly. Hopefully, the run game kind of gets back to it because we'll need the run game definitely in Big Ten play as well. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we were so high on this offensive line. For me, you know, I liked what Brosmer did. I think he's going to be just fine. Continue to get better. I'm curious to see the O line now because I was so high on them coming into this season, and they're kind of the one group that's lacking right now a little bit. So curious to see what they do next week against Nevada, and then the big one's the week after that, Iowa. So you got to get ready by then.
Right. But we've seen our offensive line start slow in the past too, and by the end of the season have it figured out. So I'm still hopeful, but yeah, it is a
Yeah.
concern when that was the one spot, like you said, that we felt the best about coming into the season just with their experience. But another another good opportunity next week, though, right, to clean it
Yeah,
up.
and so the Quinn Carroll guard experiment lasted one game, is what it's looking like. I really didn't even
Right.
notice. Like when you're up there and the right side for half the games away for you, I didn't even notice that Carroll was inside or outside at tackle again. But that was a good catch.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
So
wonder
who was
almost if
the guard?
it's
Did
is it.
did Lewis slide
I think
in?
they just yeah, they just flip flopped. I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's what I was wondering too. Like, do you think it's too early to just give up on it, or do you think this is just a good opportunity to like let's just see and have both options available, kind of have tape on both, give the guys experience at both spots, or is it well, it didn't work one game, so
Yeah,
forget it.
you think they would have stuck with it a little bit longer,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
because this
North
felt like the
Carolina's no
game to let them.
slouches.
Right, right,
Yeah. But if they watched film and he really struggled, then I mean, maybe I would say that watching this game, they were probably hoping for a bigger improvement if it's making the switch already and
yeah,
still. I mean, because when the starters left, I don't think we had 100 yards rushing. We finished with like 116. I think they had about 80 when the starters came out. So, um, yeah, that was. It's just the question mark that's still out there. That we gotta see if they get better. You're gonna need them to. So, should anything else?
no, I think that
I do have one thing on the offense before we say goodbye here. It's been about a half hour wrap up of our Rhode Island reaction episode. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good effort for a Rhode Island reaction. But I do want to run it by you. We got to see the true freshman Drake Lindsay out there. I know it's against Rhode Island's backups, but he looked good. He looked
He
the
looks
part.
good. He looks good.
Yeah.
And, I'm happy that he was out. I'm glad the two's got some reps too. This is what's good about a dominating win. Once Brosmer is out of here next year, obviously we want to focus on the season, but the future looks promising at the quarterback position. So, yeah, he looked great, and yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, not even just for next year. I mean, they're going with Lindsay as their backup this year. So to get him some
Right.
live bullets out there, I mean, that was great. To look good delivering the ball, look confident. Again, I know it's Rhode Island, but just gonna say it so fans don't think I'm going full on fan mode with it. But yeah, I liked what I saw from him, and he, being as big of a kid as he is, and watching him in high school, he was really just in the pocket, just throwing bombs, basically. He scrambled on that one play. It's like, okay, he can move a little bit. And again, I know it's not against a Big Ten team, but he's not just a statue back there, which is nice to see.
Yeah. Well, everyone, that does it for another episode of Sky U Pod, the live reaction following a 48-0 victory against Rhode Island. Be sure to check out our partner, thecollegehuddle.com, where you can see all sorts of college football podcasts out there and articles delivered to you. Also, please like and subscribe to us. Spreads awareness of our show and gets all Gopher fans kind of connected. And please leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. We'd like to get you a part of our discussions. But for now, we're signing off. We'll see you next week. But until then, go Gophers.